But there it is. We're live on Substack. I'm Colleen McCubbin, and this is Marcia Lee Laycock. Marcia is publishing a new book with us, Flecks of Gold, Yukon Stories. It will be out later this summer. And we are doing a crowdfunding campaign right now. Hello, Robert Hamilton and Tammy Brimner. Welcome to the room. Light up the chat. We love an active chat here. So Darlene Moore is here. Wonderful. Darlene, I think your name is on the list of people who could win tonight's prize. So stay tuned because we're drawing at the end. We have a few things we want to chat about tonight. So stay with us. Marcia, you might as well flash what we're drawing for tonight.
Okay.
Because technically people have about 15 minutes if they want to make a contribution and get their name in the draw. This is a Ted Harrison print. And it's from his book called Oh Canada. It's a book plate. And so go ahead and talk about it, Marcia.
Yeah, it's a book plate, and I have been telling everybody that it is the Saskatchewan one, but I just noticed that on the back, it's talking about Alberta.
I think that's because that's the back of the next page.
It's probably the next one. The next one in the book is probably Alberta, but I'm pretty sure this one is Saskatchewan.
It is. I looked it up.
Okay, good. Then I wasn't wrong.
You were right.
Yes.
So we've talked about this before, but for anybody who hasn't seen that call or hasn't heard you talk about it, who is Ted Harrison?
Well, Ted was my instructor at Yukon College in Whitehorse, Yukon, and it was way back in 1975, I believe, or maybe 76. I moved to Whitehorse for a short time and took an art course at Yukon College, and Ted was my instructor. And I just fell in love with him. He was just a lovely, lovely man. A bit of an absent-minded professor in some ways, but very funny. He had a really good sense of humor and a lovely British accent. He was originally from England. And he was just a really wonderful guy. And it was a wonderful way to spend a winter in his classroom. The other students, it was really a varied group of people. Some of them were kind of in transition in their lives and had been through some difficult things, and so this course was kind of a bit of a rehabilitation for them in a way. And so they were really interesting folks. And there was an architect from Vancouver, a Japanese fellow who was really an interesting man and did incredible drawings, very, very detailed, tiny little drawings of things. And his wife was a writer as well, so we got along really well. And it was a really interesting time in my life.
So speaking of people in transition, we were talking before we came on the call about just how some life things have happened to us recently. For me, I was offline for, I don't know, probably 3 weeks because my father-in-law passed away and had been in the hospital and hospice for a while. So it's amazing how that just, even when you're not closest to the person who dies, that just everything that's happening around it and all the other people's grief really just changes what's happening in your life. And then you, Marcia, you had plans for the summer. And how have they been interrupted for you?
Yeah, well, we were planning to go out to visit my daughter in Saskatchewan, and then to go on to Manitoba, where my brother lives in Swan River. And just as we were making plans to do that, my husband was walking around in our basement in his bare feet, which was unusual. He doesn't usually walk in his bare feet, but he walked to one side of the room that we generally didn't go to, and realized that the floor was all wet. The rug there was soaking wet. And our grandkids had been there that day. And so I said, well, maybe the kids spilled something. And he said, no, this is more than a spill. And so he kind of felt all around and checked it out. And it was quite a large area that was wet. And part of the drywall, he said he could see that it had been wet. And so we ended up having to call somebody to come and look and get a hold of the insurance company and all those things. So we couldn't really do anything, couldn't go anywhere until that we found out what was going to happen with that. And that just happened this afternoon. So we are going out to Saskatchewan tomorrow. We're going to go out to see my daughter, but I was really hoping to get out to see my brother. He's in a personal care home in Swan River. He has dementia. And I really wanted to get out to see him. I haven't seen him for about a year. And we were thinking we would stay in Saskatoon just for a short time with Meg and then go over to Swan River. And then somebody sent me a link to some pictures from what was happening in Swan River. And the entire town has been flooded. The roads are all completely out. You can't get to the town. The people in the town can't get out because the roads are just destroyed. And so that kind of put the kibosh to going to Manitoba.
Wow.
So hopefully I'll be talking to Ron when they fortunately haven't had to evacuate the building that he's in so far. They were still on alert, but hopefully they won't have to do that, because it's mostly dementia patients that are there, and that's such a difficult thing for people who have dementia to be uprooted like that. And I don't know where they would take them, because all the communities around them are in the same position. They've all been flooded and the roads are destroyed, and the government's sending in helicopters to take food and water into these communities.
Terrible.
So yeah, not what you want to hear about, for sure.
Not at all.
So that was kind of a disruption to our plans.
Yes. I remember in 2013 when we had the flood here I'm in Calgary, and they called it the flood of the century, and it just rearranged the landscape. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm. We were nervous here in the community I live in is called High River. And it's right behind our house. And we were getting very nervous because it was getting very high. We've had some torrential downpours. And then, of course, the snow melting off the mountains brings a lot of water down through this river. So the town has been monitoring it very closely, and they do an update every day. And, they're reassuring people it's not dangerous at this point. And so we just kept watching that. But one day, Spence and I drove over the bridge into the main area of town, and I looked down, and the water was just below the bridge. So it was like,
crazy.
I hope the town is right. But it's receded.
High River did not fare well. Yeah,
no.
High River did not fare well in that flood of the century.
No, the whole town.
Yeah, we like to see the river recede.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I think we've got a bit of. I said we like to see the river recede. I think we've got a little lag, don't we?
Yeah.
This we didn't talk about this before we got on, but all of this makes me want to ask you, what was the most significant weather event you can remember from living in the Yukon?
It was a flood, actually.
What was it?
The flood of 1979, which was devastating to the town. It wiped out pretty much the whole town. We weren't living in the town at the time. We were about maybe 10 miles out of town, in a little community called Bear Creek. So the road got washed out where we were, so we couldn't get into town. But we got no water at all in the cabin we were living in. But the town itself, I couldn't believe the devastation when we finally were able to get into town and see what had happened. It was just awful. And the town had built up the road that comes into town, into Dawson. They had built it up to be a dike to prevent the flooding. But the jam was so huge. There's right where Dawson is, the two rivers meet. The Yukon is flowing north. The Klondike comes in kind of on the side. And when they break, the Yukon usually breaks first. And then that starts putting pressure on the ice in the Yukon. And the ice in that river is 15 feet thick. And all of these big, huge chunks of ice start to move, and they start to churn and turn upside down. And there's a bend in the river right past Dawson, great big, they call it the slide, just beyond Dawson. And it's a cliff that comes down to the river, and the ice will sometimes bump up against that and then jam. And that's what happened this time. And usually it will free itself, but it didn't do that this time. It just jammed and got more and more jammed. And then the river backed up so quickly and so fast, and it was very, very rapid water, and it ate right through the dike, just bore a great big hole through the dike. And so then all that water flooded into the town, and it had nowhere to go because it couldn't get back out. So it was really a mess for quite a long time. So that's
the most significant. Yeah, it feels like we could probably talk about water for a long time.
Yeah.
But let's talk about like why we've gone live. We've gone live because we're doing a crowdfunder to raise money for producing your book and printing it for the people who order it. And we've got these milestones along the way. Every $1,000 we've been doing a draw. So your first draw was a plate, an art plate with a little girl and 2 husky puppies on it.
2 husky puppies, yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Hello, Maureen Harris. Welcome. And then the second one was, what was the second draw? Oh, it was felting. You did 2 felted landscapes of
the Yukon River.
That's right. And now we're doing this draw for Ted Harris. So all of these draws have had some connection to the Yukon or the North in Canada. So and those felts. Do you have any felts handy?
Not right here. No, I have one out in the living room.
Marcia is quite the visual artist. She's this amazing wordsmith, but she's also a real. You're a hobbyist, would you say?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But how many? We counted a little bit. Did we count, or did we just list a few things? You have a lot of hobbies, and they're all so interesting. So, yeah. So we are here because we've achieved $3,000 exactly. And Marcia, how did we do that?
Well,
we kind of searched for a bit.
I went to church last Sunday, and we have a little mail slot at our church, especially because my husband was a pastor there. He's recently retired, but he's still an elder there, and I'm quite connected to different groups in the church as well. So I always check our mailbox to make sure there's no notices or anything that I need to be looking at. And there was an envelope in my little mail slot, and I picked it up, and I'm organizing a trip to a local theater, to Rosebud, a theater that's near here. And so I thought this was probably payment for one of the seats on the bus to go to Rosebud. So I didn't pay too much attention to it. I just stuffed it in my purse, and after church we got in the car and we're driving back to the house. Actually, we were going out for lunch, I think, and I said to Spence, I said, "Oh, here, look and see who this is from. This is probably another person who wants a seat on the bus." And so he opened it up, and he said, "How much does it cost for a seat on the bus?" And I said, "Well, it's I think it was 80 something a person or something, that includes a meal and all that kind of thing in the bus." And he said, "Well, this is a lot more than that." And he started pulling out these bills, and I was absolutely amazed. And then I remembered there was a lady that I had lunch with breakfast with a couple of weeks ago, and she asked how the crowdfunder was going. And I told her that it had kind of slowed right down, and that we were really hoping to reach that 3,000 mark so that we could really do a good job on the book. And she said, "Oh, well, I'll pray about that." And I suspect that this came from her husband, but I'm not totally sure. And then I had breakfast again with her this morning. It's a usual Tuesday morning thing with her and a bunch of other ladies, and she did not mention a thing about the crowdfunder or the book or anything at all. And I kind of expected that she would, that she would ask, well, how is it going now? So that she knew that I had gotten this envelope. She didn't say a single thing. So I thought, well, maybe it's not them. You know,
Or
so
maybe they just want to be a secret.
I have no idea who it was really, but
Yeah.
it's a tremendous blessing. I was in tears. You know, just this church has been just wonderful as a support to my both my husband and I, but especially to me as a writer. And that hasn't always been the case in some of the churches I've been involved in, and it's just such a blessing that people are so very supportive of my work, and to have someone do this, to top up this amount of money, so that we could continue is just it's just overwhelming.
Yeah. And beautiful. Oh, yeah. It's overwhelming and beautiful. I don't want to make you talk too soon. We were talking about what should we talk about on this call, and we never have trouble thinking up things, but we do plan ahead a little bit. One of the things we thought we might talk about is things to do in the Yukon in the summer. So, Marcia, if you, how about I'll stop you at 10, and you just give us a list of 10 things that people could do in the summer. And one, I'll jumpstart you. This can be like the freebie, the 11th. And one of your previous live calls, you talked about people camping on the dome during the long summer nights in the Yukon. And what happens to the sun? The sun goes down.
The sun doesn't quite set, and people go up onto the top of the dome and they light fires and have campfires there, and they sit around singing songs. And of course, there's some people who drink quite a bit at night, and watch the sun, because it doesn't quite dip below the horizon. It stops and then starts to move back again. So that's why they call it the land of the midnight sun. So that's one of the big things that happens in the Yukon, in Dawson, in the summertime. And
that's on the longest night of the year.
Sorry?
That's on the longest night of the year, that particular experience.
The 21st of June, the solstice. And another thing that's quite popular, that my husband and a bunch of other folks in Dawson at the time, this was way back in the 70s, we started the Dawson City Music Festival, and that is still happening. Well, Spence and myself and a bunch of other people, it was Spence and about 3 guys, I think. They were sitting around talking one time, and sort of somebody said, they'd been at a music festival somewhere, and they said, we should do that in Dawson. And Spence, that would be a good thing to do in Dawson. So they started making plans, and they were I think they were sitting in a restaurant or something, and Spence, in his typical spontaneous mode, jumped up and went to a phone and looked. I don't know where he found the phone number, but he found the phone number to a place that Willie Nelson frequents. And I think that was in Tennessee or somewhere. I don't know where, somewhere in the States. And he called them and said, I want to talk to Willie Nelson. I want to invite Willie Nelson to come up to Dawson City to the music festival. And they said, oh, you just missed him. Sorry. Try again another time. So they never did get Willie Nelson, but they had many, many wonderful musicians and artists that would come up and be part of the Katie Lang is one of the famous ones. I think when she was just starting out, she was at the music festival in Dawson, and there's been several others. Can't think of any names right now, but that's one of the big things. And of course, the town just becomes overflowing with people who are there to go to the music festival. And then just the camping around Dawson and in the territory itself. There's many, many beautiful lakes in the Yukon. And of course, Kluane Park, which is just on the southern part of the Yukon, is a very popular place to go. And now the Dempster Highway, when I lived there, the Dempster wasn't a park or anything like that. There was nothing official there, but it's now a preserve up there, which is a really good thing. They limit the number of people that they allow in there, because it's all tundra. It's all muskeg and tundra, and very fragile environment. So they limit the people who can go in, but that's one of the wonderful places to visit. The Dempster Highway, I think, is one of the most beautiful scenery places that I have ever been. It's really gorgeous scenery up there. You go right through the Ogilvy Mountains, and then if you keep going, you go above the tree line. So you're going up onto the barren lands, the tundra, and it's really amazing scenery up there.
Hmm.
And then just, coming into Dawson, there's all kinds of things usually going on in town during the summer. They have kids festivals and lots of things for kids, and they have a farmer's market going all the time through the summer. And there are all kinds of wonderful boutiques in Dawson that sell gold nuggets, gold jewelry, all kinds of souvenirs from the Yukon. So it's a really fun place to go.
You still have one more or two more if you want.
Oh, one more. Okay.
One or two.
Well, fishing. I mentioned the lakes. There's a lake not too far from Dawson. It was actually the lake that my husband and I were baptized in. It's called Ethel Lake, and it's a huge, big glacier lake. There's a big glacier at one end of it, and that's where we were baptized.
Wow.
So that was an experience, being baptized in a glacier lake.
Was it cold?
It was a little chilly.
Yeah. Yes. That's great. So
but there's wonderful fishing there.
Nice. So if you want to go to the Yukon, you want to go to Dawson City, then those are a few things you can do. Camping in particular. That sounds great. And here's another thing you can do. It's not in the Yukon, although if you're in the Yukon, you could do it from there because it's virtual. Marcia is teaching at the end of August. She's teaching a flash fiction course, and she's doing it as part of our company. Serotonin is hosting summer school. Summer school starts next week. We're having a bonus session tonight. If you want to get in on it, just let me know and I'll send you the link. But Marcia's class is part of that. We've got summer school sessions running all summer, and then we've got some special electives that you can take. And one is Marcia's flash fiction course. And I asked Marcia, what is one writing tip that probably shows up without you telling us that it's there? In the book the most. What is the tip?
It's show, don't tell. And that's a tip that Sigmund Bauer gave me years and years ago. I took a course from him, and he really stressed this. He said this is one of the powerful things to watch for in your writing and to develop in your writing. And when I started doing that, I began to realize how powerful it was. It's a really, really good thing to do, to recognize as you're writing that you should be bringing your readers right into the story. Don't tell them something happened, show them what happened, so that they're seeing it, they're feeling it, they're tasting it, they're hearing it. All the sensory things are involved. And that just brings the words to life, brings the story to life.
So for things to do in the Yukon, the first thing we talked about was camping on the Dome on the longest night of the year. Instead of just telling you that people went camping and singing, how would we show?
Well, you could describe the huge bonfires that are lit, the singing and the dancing that goes on, and just the kind of sense of awe when that moment arrives, when the sun dips and then begins to move back again and doesn't quite go beyond the horizon. So those kinds of details, and probably you could describe the temperature, because it's quite a high dome. It's not really a mountain, but it's quite high. So at that time of night, it's pretty chilly up there. So hence the fires, they keep fires going. Things like that, just all of those sensory things that you would see and hear and feel, and touch and taste even.
Beautiful. And you've got fiction in this book, that in Flecks of Gold. You've got some poetry, you've got nonfiction, inspirational. A lot of the stories were published before in a devotional collection, and we're updating them a little bit. And then you've got some brand new stuff. and that's never been published before. So, yeah. What's one of the stories that you're most excited to include in this collection?
Um, well, one of the stories that I really loved to tell was actually a story about being up on the dome.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I went back to celebrate our 60th anniversary, or not 60th, sorry, 40th anniversary. We're coming up to our 46th soon, but
Okay,
um,
little ways to go before 60.
yeah. But we went up onto the dome. Our story of coming to the Lord involved the death of two close friends, two of my husband's best friends, and they both committed suicide.
Hmm.
And they are buried in that cemetery on the side of the dome. So when we were there, that was one of the things Spence wanted to do. He wanted to go up to the dome and see the graves where his friends were buried. So we did that, and it was a really misty gray day. And I said, "Oh, maybe is it worth going up to the top because we won't be able to see anything?" And he said, "Yeah, let's still go." So we went up to the very top, and it's a very windy road that winds up the side of the mountain, and got up there. And just as we got there, the sun was starting to come out, and the mist was dissipating and was starting to pull away, so we could see the river and the town below us. And I suddenly noticed that you could see this patch of blue, and that's what the story is called, a small patch of blue. And the Yukon River is not blue. It's a kind of a creamy, beige, muddy kind of color, kind of a creamy white almost. In fact, the word Yukon is from the Gwich'in language, and it means white water. And it's because there's a river that breaks and comes into the Yukon in the spring, and it's called the Milk River, and it brings a lot of very white silt into the river, and so it's never blue. And so I thought, why are we just seeing this blue patch? And then I realized it was the reflection of the sky on the water, and so it appeared blue. And I won't give the whole story away because there's more to it. There's a spiritual content to the end of the story, but that's one of my favorite ones, I think, because it brings back a really fond memory of our visit to Dawson.
That's beautiful. Thank you. So we're going to do the draw really soon. And one thing I want you to know is that we initially launched this campaign for raising the money to produce this book and pre-sell the books. And we launched it on Marcia's birthday, May 4th. And we were going to run it for a month. And then when life started happening the way it was, we thought, let's just extend it. We could have finished it at the end of the month, but let's extend it and make it truly a pre-sale opportunity. So anyone who orders now, you get your what's our next draw? Do we have another draw after this? I forget.
I don't think we have another one, but we could figure out something to do.
We'll make something up. Marcia can make something for you. You could make something, another felt, or in fact, I think one of your felts was inspired by that patch of blue story, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, or both of them, maybe.
Both of them, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, because the river is blue in your felting, and it's not always blue in real life. So, okay, so you can make a book or you can paint something. Marcia will figure it out. We will have a draw at the next $4,000 level, and we also have a level where if you anyone who's donated at a certain level, I can't remember which level, will get their name put in a draw for a Robbie Craig painting. Or yes, a painting from Robbie.
It's Craig. A print. It would be a print.
Right, a print from Robbie Craig, who is a northern artist. So you can look him up, Robbie Craig, ROBBIE Craig, CRAIG. So we've got actually two draws then. We'll have a $4,000 draw, and then we've got this other draw for people who purchase at a certain level. I don't remember what it is, but I put the link in the chat, And and we'll put it below this video once it's ready. So go and check out what the levels are, what the opportunities are to not just get the book, but just get some pieces of the Yukon for yourself or to share with others. So we've extended this till the end of July. Because we need to know how many books to print. And so the end of July gives us a good amount of time to figure that out while we're putting the finishing polishing touches on the book. So Marcia, hold up the picture. I'm going to share my screen. And let's see, wheel of names, that's what we want. Share. And, oh, you can't really see you anymore, but I'm going to click to spin. Here we go. And it is Pam H. Yay, Pam H.
Yay, congratulations, Pam.
So Pam, oh no, I just kicked Marcia out. I meant to stop sharing and I kicked Marcia out. Hang on. Oh dear. Now, can you still see my screen? I have to go invite Marcia back. Okay. Well, I'm so sorry, Marcia. I kicked her out. She disappeared before we came in. Something kicked her out, and then just now it was me. It was human error. So, well, thank you for everyone who's been here. If you're still with us, just give us a hi in the chat, because we will end the call. I'll just wait a minute and see if Marcia comes back for the last moment to celebrate Pam getting this book plate. And I looked up that book. Oh, Ted Harrison's Over Harris. Ted Harris's Oh Canada book is out of print now, but it's still available in used copies, and it's beautiful. I love Canadiana, and I love Canadian artists. So, well, I don't know if Marcy is going to come back, so I have to go apologize to her now. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, and there will be a replay of this. You can enjoy Marcia's stories again, and let us know if you're planning a trip to the Yukon, especially after hearing what Marcia has to say about it. So have a good evening, and we'll see you again at $4,000 or sooner. Okay, good night.